I want to talk about the 2025 recruits that Iowa State hauled in. Had a couple recent ones. The main ones we got in here, the one that's particularly interesting to me. I mean, they're both interesting, but ones that are particularly interesting to me, we've got Jaden Jackson here. So Jaden Jackson is a running back from Texas. There's a couple reasons I think this is it's a notable signing. One, there's already a bit of a log jam in the running backs room because you've got Carson Hansen starting, and you've got Abu Sama's there currently, and you've got Dylan Lee is coming off of scholarship. You have the other running back of the 2025 class, which I believe his name is Peppers. Am I thinking right? Yes, River Peppers. Another running back that I was and am still very high on. So I think that's a guy that has a chance there. You've also got Aiden Flora, who also as a walk-on last year got some carries, even in I think he even got carries in the Pop-Tart Bowl. So he got significant carries through, or significant. He got, a handful, but he got more than zero, and his carries didn't come in garbage time. So Aiden Flora is in the room. And all of those guys are still on the roster. So, it makes sense to take one running back per class for sure. But this is now the second running back of the class, which you would not have expected to see Iowa State take a second running back this class, given the logjam in the room, unless one or maybe two things is happening. The main thing that I believe is happening here is that Jaden Jackson, maybe is an academic issue, maybe it was a late bloomer type thing, which seems a little unlikely because Jaden Jackson ran for over 8,000 yards in high school in Texas. In the state of Texas, he ran for over 8,000 yards. That is a lot of running. And you can watch, he's a power running back. See if I can blow this up and make this a little bit bigger. So you can see him here. He's running out of this heavy wishbone offense, kind of like Carson Hansen did, but you can see he runs with a lot of power. He's not necessarily a speed, like a home run hitter guy, but this is a guy that, like I said, this is a very similar offense to what, honestly, his tape looks a lot like Carson Hansen's did. Like I said, not super agile, not going to make a lot of guys miss, but he just doesn't go down easy. He just does a nice job finishing runs, coming off the edge here, just bang, 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 just keeping his feet moving. I think this is a guy that this late in the cycle, this is a guy that you're probably not taking a second running back in this class unless you really like Jaden Jackson. Like if this is a guy like, damn, I can't believe we stole this kid. That's why you take a Jaden Jackson, take a second running back this late in the recruiting cycle when you've already got one and you've got a full running back room. The other, I said, I've thrown this theory out before. It feels it provides a little bit more credence to that theory. Like I said, I've got no inside info on this at all, but my theory that I threw out a few weeks ago was that given that Carson Hansen appears to have kind of taken that lead running back spot. That's the two seems to be getting the most carries. And you got Dylan Lee coming up, River Peppers coming in, Aiden Flores got carries, and Abu Sama had a very up and down season. There was, the Houston game, he had a nice game. He had some explosive runs, but he didn't necessarily take the step forward to be a dominant back like we maybe thought he was going to, or thought he could anyways. Worth noting that when he got to Iowa State, the original position they wanted Abu Sama at was corner. And right now you've got Jontez Williams is solidified. You feel great about that as your number one corner. Abu Sama, right now you're trying to establish that second corner, figure out who that guy's going to be. There is a history, there is precedent with Iowa State converting skill players on offense to corner and them being very good. Darian Porter's a great example, was a receiver for a long time, moved over to corner for the last couple of years, and he's been fabulous. And he will probably he might be a day 2 pick in the NFL, depending on what his combine looks like. There's precedent there for taking really good athletes from the offensive side, moving them to corner to, or even just to the defensive side of the ball to fill a need. We know Abu was originally, they wanted him to be a corner to start off before he just kind of showed out at running back in practice. Um, so he's got, he's got experience at the position. They believe he can play that at the Big 12 level. I'm not saying he's gonna. I don't know if it's even necessarily been talked about. But the idea that Abu Sama may be getting ready to switch sides of the ball to corner gets a little bit more of a solid foundation to that theory when you take a second running back this late in the cycle, when you already have so many guys in the room that got carries last year. Again, I have no inside info on this. I could be dead wrong. And if I am, it is what it is. Sometimes you're just wrong. Sometimes in sports, sometimes you're just wrong. And it happens, and I'm okay with that. But I think it's an interesting theory. I wouldn't say I would not oppose that whatsoever. Alex Simon was an incredible athlete, and I think if the coaching staff believes they can flip him to the other side of the ball and turn him into an elite corner, more power to him. Because then you can have Jaden, you can have potentially Abu Sama right across the corner from John Tez Williams, who was a ball hawk last year. He's going to be a fabulous corner. Like I would think right now, John Tez Williams would be like a dark horse to be a first team All Big 12 guy next year because I think he's that good. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out through spring. I'm sure it wouldn't shock me if they at least try him at corner through spring just to see if maybe he's the second best corner on the team and they just been using him at running back. We'll see there. Either way, that position group with Hank Poteet and Deion Broomfield at safety, at the safeties, I think they've got a good handle on that secondary. The secondary is always good. So it'll be interesting to watch. But Jaden Jackson is a guy that I'm really, really intrigued by. The high school production in Texas, so it's a good state. He's playing against good competition. That kind of production at the high school level is unusual. And it shows you that some guys just get the job done. Some guy, like you look at, there's so many of these guys that come out of Iowa, especially where they don't jump off the page necessarily as a special athlete, or they're not, they're not a physical freak or anything, but in high school, they're just wildly productive players. And sometimes it's because, the competition maybe they're playing 8-man football in Iowa and it's just not great competition. So sometimes they just, guys that are just decent look really great against bad competition. But there's a lot of times where you get these guys that are just incredibly productive in high school, but they don't necessarily have, elite speed or an elite, for quarterbacks, an elite arm, or don't have elite size, something like that. So they don't necessarily stand out to a blue chip program, but they just get the job done. Carson Hansen for Iowa State was a guy that in high school just got the job done. Like I said, he doesn't necessarily jump off the page as a special athlete or anything like that, but he just gets the job done. And that's what a program like Iowa State needs, is guys that can bring their lunch pail, get the job done. And I think Jaden Jackson is one of those guys. So, just a quick one. The other commit is a defensive lineman. I'm trying to, I had his name written off to the side for BJ Carter, defensive lineman from Middlesburg, Florida. He's a 86 overall. Let me pull up his profile here real quick. So he's a mid 3-star guy. Got some okay offers: East Carolina, Florida Atlantic. It's all G5 stuff down in the area. But generally speaking, this is another guy where the class was fine where it was. Getting guys this late in the game is a move to say, this is a guy that we maybe are surprised that was here available. Usually when you see a guy this late and that's this late of a commit, it's because they really wanted him. That they see the guy on tape and they're like, we want this guy on the roster. This isn't it's not a ratings play. It's none of that. This is a guy that you take because you want on the roster, especially when you've got a basically a full class up to this point. I think it's an interesting signing for Iowa State. There's not a lot of tape on it. I mean, I could probably go, I could go find a huddle page, but not a lot of like immediate tape like there is with Jaden Jackson, just because he's, one of the most productive running backs in Texas high school history. But 2 late signings to finish out that class, and I think I think Iowa State is definitely done with this class. I don't think they're gonna get any, like, summer commitments or anything like that. If they do, it's because it was an academic issue or something.